nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and a familiar face and friend of the show, Chris Carter. Chris, how are you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Just trying to get through every week like everybody is.
Seriously, a lot of news, a lot of things to get into. But as of right now, as far as we know, the Ravens Pittsburgh game is still happening on Thanksgiving. We haven't heard any changes as of yet. But of course, as you guys know, you've probably seen the news, Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. And I also think Brandon Williams, is that correct, Glenn? That all three of them have put on the COVID list.
I'm not sure about Brandon, but I know the other two. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a monkey wrench in this whole thing, and we'll see what happens with the facility being temporarily closed. I know it was open this afternoon, but yeah. Without putting too much of a damper on it, we'll assume this game is happening moving forward. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of history between these teams. So, Glenn, I'm going to let you kick it off here and pepper Chris with some questions.
All right. Well, get ready, Chris. And thanks again for coming on with us. I got to ask you this. The Steelers, they're undefeated, right? I mean, they still haven't lost. I'm assuming they'll likely be the favorite in most, if not all of their games. Maybe the Buffalo game on the road, they may be a slight underdog. We'll see. But I'm assuming they're going to be the favorite in almost all their games. Why is there not a countdown on ESPN with their current opponents? Why does it seem like the national media doesn't care?
I mean, that's the question going around Pittsburgh right now. There was a top 10 rookies list, and Chase Claypool wasn't on it. He's the only rookie in the history since the Super Bowl has begun to have 10 touchdowns in 10 games. And somehow he's not on a top 10 rookie list. But it's bizarre. Steelers fans don't get it. Everyone's questioning all the time. I joke about it after every win because I watch NFL Live. And I like the people on there. I like Marcus Spears, Mina Kimes, Ryan Clark. Like, even Ryan Clark was a former Steeler. He's more reasonable. But, like, Mina Kimes and Marcus Spears each ranked the Steelers third in the conference after they beat the Titans and the Ravens. And I'm like, what do the Steelers got to do? They're undefeated. They're literally beating everyone on their schedule. If you want to say that their schedule is too weak, well, no one said that when the Patriots had to play in the AFC East for 20 years. So it's bizarre. A lot of people in Pittsburgh are asking it. I keep telling people, you know what? Yeah, fine. You know what? The Ravens, they have a stronger strength of schedule because they have to play the Steelers twice, and the Steelers don't have to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, I hate that that's a good point too. But
not thrilled.
Do you think, as a follow-up to that, do you think that internally they care? Do you think it bothers them? You think that they're just not worried about it?
Dude, we in the media in Pittsburgh have been trying to poke holes in that. Like, hey guys, you know you're undefeated, right? Like, come on, you want to lose sometimes now, so you get it out. They're all like, we don't care that we're undefeated. I mean, it is the same message. Whatever Mike Tomlin's Kool-Aid that they are drinking, they are all believing in it. They're all saying like Eric Ebron said, if we lose a game, we really don't care. We just know our goal is the Super Bowl. And as long as we are still in the hunt for the playoffs, we are focused on our next opponent. And that's all we care about. And I mean, the messaging is on brand. They're not losing focus. In each game, you see that they are focused. That even when things start to go a little awry, they're like, okay, how do we adjust? What do we do here to do that? And they don't seem to blink right now. And this is I think they're in a very good spot. I talked today alone, Monday alone. I talked to Stephon Tuitt, Eric Ebron, Mike Tomlin, Chase Claypool, and I might be missing somebody. And all of them literally said, like all the players, they said verbatim, and it's just like, we don't care about 16-0. We care about winning the Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger said it last week. It's the message. It's what they believe in. I think they actually believe it because they're all saying it. There's not a slip up somewhere where like, no, man, I'm really hyped and I just want to win every game. And like they're focused.
Right.
Yeah, that's quite scary because it looks like they just find ways to win, even in games where it doesn't look like they can. I mean, I remember the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago. I mean, that game did not look like it was going to be won by the Steelers, but as good teams do, they found a way to win. Now we talked a little bit about the Ravens' current health situation, but I'm curious as to the Steelers. I know that Juju suffered kind of a fluke injury. It looked like slipping on an official's flag during a play. Who's playing? Who's sitting? Is there anyone that's kind of on the cusp of doing one or the other?
Well, we're still looking at some things here. We don't know the status of Juju. We know, of course, with a short week, it's going to make it tougher for anyone who got an injury on Sunday to play again. So Juju might not play for this game. The other name that really popped up, well, really the only name that popped up was Zach Gentry. He's the team's third string tight end, which would have been a big deal because Vance McDonald tested positive for COVID 2 weeks ago. But Mike Tomlin just said on Monday in his press conference that McDonald has been cleared. He's passed all the protocols. He's practicing Tuesday. And as long as he's healthy, he'll be playing Thursday. So now the Steelers will get at least 2 tight ends into their system the way that they've preferred to use it over the past year or so. Right now they look healthy. If Juju can't go, we've seen that the team can kind of focus on Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Ray McCloud. They might bump up one more person from the practice squad temporarily, but right now the team seems like they're healthy. Mike Hilton came back last week. He was gone for 3 weeks, and him being back really helped out. The safeties are healthy. The pass rush is healthy. The offensive line is healthy. Everything seems like the Steelers are in a good spot now as far as injuries.
So I got to ask this question because I got to address the elephant in the room. It's a Thanksgiving game. Mm-hmm. For all of you young Ravens or Steelers fans that don't remember the event that's in the background, I just got to ask, we got a rookie kick returner. Are there going to be extra eyes on Tomlin for this game? Like, should we tell him, hey, run down the other side of the sideline, look out for the 12th guy, that's Mike Tomlin? Like, you know what I mean? Is that something we should be concerned about?
Here's the thing. Mike Tomlin said after that happened is that, and you can look on the all 22 tape, that was just a bad habit that he had, that on kickoffs, he walks very close to the sideline and he looks at the scoreboard. And when I went through all 22s, if there was a kick return where you could see him just standing there looking at the scoreboard, and he's like in the white. And he said, that was dumb of me to be in that position. And as people need to remember, he never tripped Jacoby Jones. He was getting run down anyways that play. So there was never any contact.
No, there wasn't contact,
No.
but Jacoby was definitely influenced and moved a little bit.
Influence. You got to find a way to win. I didn't want to hear that. The Steelers had to overcome Ben Roethlisberger. They won with a duck collar a bunch last year. You got to still find ways to get the play done.
But if you show me tape of Jacoby getting caught, I'll validate that.
Well, we saw a lot of Jacoby getting caught because he came to the Steelers and he couldn't return.
Yeah, well, he was like already more out of the league than in it at that point. Who knows what he was doing outside of playing on Sundays at that point? But yeah, I had to. I'm just saying he wasn't taking it too serious at that point.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
I'm just messing, but
I had to bring it up though.
Funny to bring it up.
Yeah, well, it looks like these two teams are heading in opposite directions. So I got to know at this point, when you look at the Ravens, what scares you when you look at the Ravens right now?
If anything at all,
it's still Lamar Jackson. I know people are on him because they're losing, but this is where I bring my film analysis. I'm like, I look at these games. I'm like, yeah, Lamar made a mistake here, mistake there. Because he's trying to do too much because he doesn't have any help. It seems like only now John Harbaugh's like, that J.K. Dobbins, he is pretty good. Maybe I should run with him a little bit more. And I'm like, no, seriously, the rookie running back that you spent a second-round draft pick to get, maybe you should be using him more. But you still, Devin Duvernay, he's not a guy right now you can depend on. Miles Boykin, he's Miles Boykin. Mm-hmm. Hollywood Brown has not come through the way it needed to. Mark Andrews still just – he's an above average tight end. He's not an elite tight end. And I think that's not enough for a quarterback to go into a game when you don't have a lot of other receiving targets you can count on consistently to make the tough catches, to beat coverage consistently, to beat it. Willie Snead is a good veteran to have, but he can't be the biggest source of reliability. And that's what he was for the Ravens against the Steelers in that game. I really think a big part of this is just Lamar there's too much on his shoulders to get everything done. And this was what I was concerned for the Ravens going into the season with no Marshall Yanda. The offensive line is not going to be as good. The run game's not going to be as consistent. And that's going to put a lot of strain on him to win with receivers that he don't really got a good relationship with as far as on-field chemistry. And I think that's where his weaknesses are. Defensively, Brandon Williams, and he is on the COVID list. Ingram and Dobbins both tested positive, but he was the close contact. And we're hoping that these are the only people. There's no more close contacts to come from this. But with that being said, Brandon Williams being out, Calais Campbell, who's been injured, that's a hurt piece for the Ravens. And you're going up against the Steelers offense that, they get James Conner. He averaged 6.8 yards per carry last week. He's still in there. People don't realize James Conner is the 8th leading rusher in the NFL right now when it comes to yards. And he may have had some rough weeks here and there, but he can still get downfield and run people over and stiff arm people. And I think people are going to overlook that. For the Ravens, the biggest thing you're still concerned about is Lamar Jackson and if that secondary is still challenging people. But I was really concerned when I saw Corey Davis and AJ Brown beating them on certain routes. I'm like, that ain't normal for Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, that was a concern. That was something we talked about after that game too. It's we put these guys in positions because we believe they're going to win their matchups the majority of the time. No one's perfect, but we believe that they're going to have the advantage in that matchup, and so that was a struggle for us and a concern. Interesting to know that. That's a great point as well. That Lamar still is someone to be feared, but as a Ravens fan,
respected, not feared, as Mike Tomlin will tell you.
Fair enough. So all right. Ben is playing with a lot of confidence right now, along with the entire team. Do you kind of talked about the message that they've been giving, but as a fan, do you get nervous or, as a person that, works inside with the team, do you get nervous that they haven't taken a loss yet? Some people say, of course, like you talked about, losing a game or two is important to keep your edge or to like get it out of the way, whatever phrase you want to put in there. Do you prescribe to that at all? If
this was a younger team, maybe I do think the intangibles can weigh on teams that aren't experienced, but this is a team that believes in its leaders and gets behind its leaders. Ben Roethlisberger has really been a leader for this team. They're saying what he's saying. They're doing what he's telling them to do, and you got to respect that. He puts a lot together for the team, and for me, especially with him, I think he's locked in. Every week he's just saying, okay, where are the weaknesses of the defense? Let me find those and attack. And when you talk to Eric Ebron, who again, he's a new Steeler this year, but he's just talking like this is just this environment. It makes you believe in yourself. It makes you believe in your teammates and understand what you got to do to pick them up. All the right things are being said right now. I don't think that they're worried. And I mean, Eric Ebron even said, he's like, if we lose a game, so what? As long as it's not in the playoffs, we're fine. We want to win a Super Bowl. I think that if they win out and they go to the playoffs, I don't think they'll be thinking about that. I think they'll keep, especially the older players, they'll be able to keep things in line. Cameron Hayward, he's not even. What's crazy is this team has 3 players. They got T.J. Watt with 9 sacks, Bud Dupree with 8 sacks, Stephon Tuitt with 7 sacks, and he's an interior defensive lineman. And Cam Hayward's not even in that group, but he is still like the soul of the team, and that he can keep everyone in line. But he doesn't even have to anymore because everyone's believing the hype. Everyone's buying into the system. Don't look too far ahead. Focus on your next opponent. Read your keys. Study. Get ready for the game. I don't think this is going to bug them one bit if they haven't lost a game going into the playoffs. I think that they probably will at some point. I just think it's too tough in this competitive NFL that at some point, it may be this week against the Ravens, it may be the Bills, it may be Washington if their defense is on fire and something crazy happens with their offense. Who knows? It could still be the Browns. But bottom line is they're not concerned about the record. You can't. I mean, anytime you ask, we don't care. That's their response.
Yeah, it looks like they're definitely drinking the Mike Tomlin Kool-Aid. There's no doubt about that. And look, I mean, he's an incredible leader. I kind of always put John and Mike right next to each other as far as great leaders and Super Bowl winning coaches. So much respect to him. Now when I look back at their previous matchup, it's kind of a strange game because I feel like the Ravens absolutely dominated in the stat sheet. They had more passing yards, more rushing yards, more first downs. They converted third downs better. They dominated time possession. I mean, they ran for 268 yards on a team that gave up 68 yards a game rushing. So outside of penalties, which they had 9 of, and turnovers, which they had 4 of, they dominated the stat sheet. So how concerned should Steelers fans be if the Ravens can just eliminate some of those costly penalties and maybe cut down on 1 or 2 of those turnovers? How concerned should they be if the Ravens are able to clean up and play a cleaner game?
See, I'd be concerned the other way around. Normally when I look at a game, and for years, especially with Cowher and even the early days of Tomlin, even like the lately days of Tomlin, when you play a team twice, if you dominate them in a game, it is rare to dominate a team twice like that, unless they're bad or you just had some really good juju going your way. But it is very rare for you to dominate a team in all these different phases. And yeah, the Ravens ran the ball. They were able to limit the Steelers' passing offense for most of the game. And when those games slip away, that's not a good sign because, again, the Steelers aren't some chumps. This ain't like the Bengals snuck you. This, because you can have a game like that against the Bengals and say, you know what, we're coming back into town and we're gonna rough up your offensive line. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. You can't say that about the Steelers. Just like the Steelers can't say that about the Ravens. I can't tell you how many times, a game where the Steelers felt like they controlled all of it and then they win or they lose, but then the Steelers fans like, oh well, we did that, we'll come back in the next game and do that. It's no guarantee that that's going to happen twice, especially in today's NFL with how good and great a lot of these athletes are across the board. If I'm looking at this game, I'm concerned if I'm the Ravens that I had them in my house coming off of a bye week with everything lined up. They had their bye week stolen from them, and we dominated the ground and we gave them a lot of fits, and we still found a way to lose the game. That's rough. And it does appear, as much as an appreciator of Lamar Jackson that I am, and anyone who knows me knows that I am, I look at this and I'm concerned that it might be in his head that this team's struggling and he doesn't have the answers right now. Just the way he responded. When he said, it feels like everyone wants us to lose, I was like, Lamar, I mean, outside of Ravens fans, they do. That's how that works. So, if I'm the Steelers, they're trying to fix up those things. But again, it's easy to fix up those things when you won. And now you're saying, okay, these are the ways they beat us this last time. Guess what? Now we got Tyson Alulu back, got Mike Hilton back. The run game's going to be a lot stronger. We can do a lot more moving pieces. Terrell Edmonds just got 2 picks last week. Like that's the hype that the Steelers are on right now. If it happens again, that'll be interesting. It'll be on the road. The Ravens are coming off back-to-back losses. The Steelers are coming off are on a 10-game win streak. I think this is a little bit different than what happened with last time.
Yeah, and the only thing I agree with you on Lamar's comment. The only thing I will say is that he does get an inordinate amount of criticism.
I agree. I agree.
I think it has to do with just because he's different. He's hard to compare to other players. He's a different player. He's not a guy we see very often. And so people want to put him in categories and buckets that he doesn't really belong because he's kind of his own guy, right? But yeah, I'm with you there. It's definitely going to be interesting. But kind of doubling down on Glenn's point, one guy in particular that as of right now is still going to be in this game that a lot of people maybe that are what we call like casual fans might not be thinking about. But my boy Gus Edwards, in the past 2 games that we've played, has done really well against the Steelers, of course, last year at the end of the season. And then in this past game, JK, of course, went over 100, but Gus was no slouch in that game either, especially on those dive plays where he's eating up yardage anywhere from 3 to 6 yards consistently, probably more like 4 to 6 pretty consistently. I think he averaged like 5 and change that game. In that previous game. So any extra attention being paid to Gus, even though the other 2 guys that are the headliners are out, think that there's something they're still looking at? Is that a cause for concern for you?
The Steelers are more so concerned with how the Ravens offensive line does things. Gus Edwards, he does a good job taking what's there. And Mike Tomlin even said that, like we remember a lot of things they did to us, and we're gonna be adjusting to that. I think the biggest thing for the Steelers is continuing to contain Lamar. And if you can beat us with just Gus Edwards, congratulations. I think that's where their mindset is that as long as Lamar Jackson isn't running up and down on us and isn't hitting Mark Andrews over the middle when he's wide open, that's what there's. If Lamar Jackson can throw to the sideline 20 yards down the field and split 2 defenders all game long, congratulations, you got that. And if Gus Edwards can turn into Adrian Peterson in his prime overnight, congratulations, you got that. But because no defense in today's NFL can take away everything as much as any hype does. And the Steelers fans have a lot of hype for the defense right now, but this is the modern era of the NFL. You can't take away everything every week. It's very hard to do that unless the other team is just that bad. But when you have a competent offense, a competent anything or any skill level on your offense, something's going to break with the way that the rules are structured. So Gus Edwards, yeah, they're planning to take him seriously. That's the thing. The Steelers aren't looking at the Ravens like, oh, poor them, we're going to beat up on them. No, they're looking at them. Stephon Tua said this morning, he said, it's a 5-star matchup. You know, this is the Ravens. This Ravens week. We're ready. We know they're going to bring it. We're going to bring it, and it's going to be a great time. We're going to have a lot of fun. You know, it's Thanksgiving night. Like they still have that atmosphere about them that they're thinking like the Ravens, they're going to, you know, who cares? They're like, who cares that they're on a 2-game losing streak? They know the Ravens are going to bring it no matter who they bring to Heinz Field on Thursday night. Again, hopefully it's Thursday night. And what's crazy about this too, guys, I think the NFL, they are sitting there and they're like, y'all are going to play this game. I don't care what happens between any of yous, because this is Thursday night football. This is Thanksgiving. This is NBC, and it's Steelers Ravens. And I don't care if it's RG3 versus Devlin Hodges. Y'all going to get out there and y'all going to play. And it has to happen because no teams from Sunday are flexing into Thursday. That's not happening. And if this game can't happen Thursday night, no game happens Thursday night. And the NFL's not losing those dollars.
Yeah,
that's what we were talking about earlier.
That would be a massive, massive loss. I mean, everyone's at home. I mean, they're not all traveling to one house, turning on one TV. They're at their own houses with 8 different houses, all having their TVs on. So that would be absolutely devastating. I think you're right. I think the protocol definitely seems to make sure they're getting the games in. That's what's most important to the NFL and the protocol is get the games in, which of course in turn they want to stop the spread because that's the only way to get the games in. But I want to know this game in particular. What do the Steelers have to do to get the win, and what would the Ravens have to do to get the win?
On the Steelers side, they got to keep doing what they're doing to Lamar. I mean, they had 3 interceptions on him in the first game last year, and then they had 4 turnovers on him in this last game. Keep doing what you're doing. Put the pressure on him. He may get yards here and there, but when it gets down to the red zone and the field starts to shrink and he has to make tighter decisions, and throughout the game as he keeps coming back out there, if the offense is putting points up, if Ben Roethlisberger's seeing the field and he's taking what's there the Ravens are giving him, again, I think he needs to attack the Ravens safeties. Even if Juju's not there, use the spread out of the weapons. Eric Ebron is still a factor in this game. You keep doing that throughout this game, you're going to put pressure on the Ravens to have to score. And we've seen when the Ravens get down, it's tough for them to come back. And even with the last game that went down to the final pass right in the end zone, the Steelers over the past, I think hasn't been since last year against the 49ers, which was Mason Rudolph's first ever start. That was the last time this defense was on the field and gave up a game-winning score. Every other game that they've lost, which was all the games last year that they lost, were the defense maybe giving us points early, but then the offense not being able to do their job. But when it comes to closing, this defense does very well. The key for the Steelers, get that lead, put the pressure on Lamar Jackson in the offense. Don't make it easy for him to throw over the middle or to scramble himself and make it. And for the Ravens, my thing would be defensively, keep trying to confuse Ben Roethlisberger. Hope that you can catch him on a short week and say maybe he'll make some mistakes. And when he does, you gotta intercept the football. This can't be pass defenses. They can't be breakups. They can't be tips. You gotta catch it and you gotta get going. Because if you don't do that, you're going to give Ben Roethlisberger more and more chances to see what you're doing. And this ain't the Ben of old. He's not staring down one guy anymore. He's not looking for 1 or 2 options. He's seeing the field. He's like, okay, you're covering cover 2. We're going to hit you in the middle of the field. You're covering cover 3. Here's the seam. You're going that. We're going to the flat. You're backing off. Here's the draw. Like he is showing a better command of the offense than I've ever seen in his career. To mess with that, you got to keep disguising your looks. You got to trust your defense to be disciplined in those moments. And offensively, run the ball as best you can. Trust Lamar to make some plays here and there, and trust him to run your scheme. But I do think that at some point, there's a famous saying that a lot of the guys here at Pittsburgh radio stations like to say. They say it's not about the X's and the O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. And at some point, I really think that all the X's and O's that the Ravens have right now ain't going to get it done if they don't get Lamar some help. They need to get him. And Des Bryant, I know they added him and everything, but just not enough for me. You know what I'm saying? So, trust your system. You got to go back to what works in your guns, and you have to trust it's going to work out. But if it don't work out this year, to me, it's not saying chuck the system and chuck the coaches. It's saying there needs to be a serious investment in this offense to get that quarterback more talent around him.
Yeah, amen to that. That's a whole different story for a whole nother day that we've been talking about a lot off air, and we will definitely dissect that, certainly. Now, it's interesting because last night I'm watching the Chiefs come back against the Raiders, and I hate the Chiefs. I just hate them because they win all the time. Just because they win all the time, and
he hates on Mahomes.
Okay.
Yeah. I respect him now that he's got one, but I felt like he arrived before he got one. Anyway, different story. But I'm watching this game and I'm thinking, dang, I got to root for the Chiefs at this point, right? Because we're vying for a wild card spot, and I'm over here rooting for Mahomes on a game-winning drive. I felt like I was changing my religion.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, this is insane. What am I doing here? So anyway, the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I want to ask you two questions. Of course, one of them being, how will the outcome of this game be? But what do you, the first thing I want you to answer is, what do you see happening with this division? The Browns just jumped us. We're third in the division right now. The Colts just won yesterday, right? And they're in that matchup, of course, with the Titans, and the Titans just beat us. So there's a lot of mishmash going on right now in the AFC. How do you see the AFC North ending up, and what do you think the outcome of this game will be?
So first thing on the AFC North, Ravens fans, do not panic. I think the Browns, they got some reckonings to deal with. If you look at their last few wins against the Texans, against the Eagles, they have not been good. Baker Mayfield is strictly a game manager right now. And I think any team that can at least limit what they do on the ground and have a decent enough offense will put the Browns in their place. And yes, the Browns are a game up on the Ravens right now. And if the Ravens can't get a quick turnaround, maybe they go down 2 games after playing the Steelers. That's, still to be determined. But even if that does happen, the Browns still have to play the Titans on the road, and they still have to play the Ravens. And that's where, if I'm the Ravens, I get a little bit of comfort, because if I'm the Ravens, I look at the rest of my schedule. I say, even if you can't beat the Steelers, if you can beat the Steelers, gravy. You're in a great position to catch the Browns and get yourself back into the wild card race. But you got the Dallas Cowboys at home. You know how to beat Andy Dalton. You've been doing it for years. You got the Browns, who you've already smacked up. You got the Jaguars at home. You got the Giants at home. And then you're on the road against the Burrowless Bengals. Beat the Steelers, you're in a really good position to get back, you get your season back on track and get ready for the playoffs. Lose the Steelers, you're still in that position. But you need to beat the Browns. That's the biggest thing here for Ravens fans. You've got to be able to come out and have that confidence. And you got to trust that, hey, the Browns, on top of playing the Titans and the Ravens, they still got to play the Steelers. And here's where another reason that you might have to root for the Chiefs a little bit longer. If the Chiefs keep winning and the Steelers keep winning, and you get to that week 17 and the Steelers are playing the Browns, that game's relevant, because then the Steelers want to make sure that the Chiefs have to go through Heinz Field and not the other way around. And so then, say the Ravens are 1 game behind the Browns, and all the Ravens got to do is win their game against the Bengals, and then all they need to do is the Browns to lose so that they can tie, and that the Ravens would get the tiebreaker because they've swept the Browns. That's where you'd want the Steelers to have to play their starters and to want to win that game in Cleveland, because then you're going to want that game to help push the Browns down and give the Ravens a chance to jump up. So there's 3 games there that I think are going to be really tough for the Browns, and still all games are tough for the Browns in my book because they have not really arrived yet. But there's 3 games that you can legitimately look at and say, hey, they can lose, and if the Ravens handle their business, they'll be back in it. So I still don't view the Browns as some team to truly fear. If you can stop the run, keep Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in check, and you can slow down Myles Garrett. You do that, I think this team's very beatable. As we've seen, the Steelers and the Ravens have both blown out the Browns. So that's where I see the AFC North. I see this game going very similar to last time. I think that the Ravens will find some success here and there. I try to tell y'all, the Steelers team is not to be played with. I think it's going to come down to the wire again. I think it's going to come down to if the Steelers get that lead late in the second half, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Ravens to have to keep playing hard. But this Steelers defense, man, they're playing another level. They just had 4 interceptions, and again, they got 2 from Terrell Edmonds, which he hadn't had an interception since his rookie season. And now they got Mike Hilton back. Cameron Sutton's playing at a high level. They're working in Avery Williamson, the guy they got from the Jets, and he's still one of the leading tacklers in the NFL, even though he hasn't played for 3 weeks. They're in a really good position to control this game. I got the Steelers winning this one. I'm going to say 30, 22. In an odd way, I think it's gonna go. I think the Ravens make a push towards the end, but I just think the Steelers defense, they are firing on all cylinders, and the Ravens aren't clicking on enough right now.
Yeah, that would be another disappointment on already what sounded like to be a disappointing Thanksgiving holiday. But I'll say this, Chris, I didn't think that you would make me feel better on this podcast, but you did. You found a way to do it. I mean, so thank you for that. I mean, I didn't think I'd come to you.
I try to be objective.
Right, but I didn't think I'd come to you to feel better because, I mean, with the Steelers, the way they're playing. But thank you for making us, the wild card is still very much so in the reach for the Ravens. So, yeah, thanks for making me feel a little better there.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, why don't you let us know where the folks that are watching can find the stuff you're working on?
All different things. First of all, follow me on Twitter at Carter Critiques. If you follow me, I'll follow you back. Don't be afraid to at me or DM me. I'm glad to talk with fans any point in time. I'm never too big. You can find my written work on dkpittsburghsports.com. That's D as in David, K as in kangaroo, pittsburghsports.com. I'm the film analyst there. I also cover the University of Pittsburgh's football and basketball teams. So you can read all my work there. You can listen to me daily at the Locked On Steelers podcast. You can find that on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere podcasts are hosted. And I do a lot of stuff for the DK Podcast Network as well. So a lot of different ways to catch me. You can also catch me on the local NBC station here, WPXI TV, Channel 11 in Pittsburgh. So a lot of different ways to follow me. Ravens fans, listen. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, but I don't hate y'all. You heard me today. It's a respect thing, and that's the whole thing. So, everyone, I hope that everybody has a safe Thanksgiving, and everyone's being, making the right decisions out here. Just protect yourself. This COVID stuff is real. It's impacted my family. It's impacted the people that I really care about. And I just want to remind people that you don't want to be in that situation if you haven't been already. So I hope everyone's making smart decisions out there.
Yeah, we appreciate that and echo those sentiments. Thanks again, man. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Chris.